Ladies and gentlemen, good night. I was on a live last night on Low Key Genius, and I was presented with a question about human sacrifice. Did it exist or did it not exist? And I was saying I don't believe it existed. So now I'm going to do a live on it too, because I found a couple of articles about it. So I'm going to do that and read these articles and see what the articles say, because I don't want to believe it, to be honest with you, but I have to read the evidence and see what the evidence says and see where the evidence goes, or else I'm intellectually dishonest. So I am going to go ahead and read an article and see where the article takes me, because it's not about what I believe or what I want to believe. It's about the truth. So I'm going to go on ahead and share my screen. Ladies and gentlemen, when you pop in, let me know by saying what's up in the chat. I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to read this article. I'm going to see where it takes me. This is only a part one because I have another article to read and a whole dissertation. I'm going to read the two articles and see where it takes me. This is from the Luxor Times, Learning from History for a Better Future. And this is from 2000. The copy, this, I believe this is from 2018. You see it here, it will say 2018 on it, right? So, yes, all right, 2018, right? So, this is a pretty recent article in terms of talking about called human sacrifice in ancient Egypt, myth or reality, old discussions and new interpretation by Waj C. Ek Edgemont. Sorry if I'm butchering your name, bro. The idea of human sacrifice in ancient Egypt is a topic of great controversy among Egyptologists as well as a vast subject in popular culture, films, and novels. Often features a pharaoh who demands the people who build his tomb are buried alive with him in order to ensure that nobody will reveal the secret of its construction or rob his grave. Sometimes these victims return as vengeful mummies risen from the dead. Of course, this is only a creation of writers and filmmakers. However, there are good grounds that the custom of killing servants and burying them with their king in order to serve him in the afterlife did indeed exist in ancient Kemet, although only at the very beginning of pharaonic civilization. Much debate exists around this subject, and a wide spectrum of opinions are expressed in the academic discipline. Scholars have made claims ranging from complete denial that such a practice occurred to the discipline scholars. Wait, much debate exists around this subject, and a wide spectrum of opinions are expressed in the academic discipline. Scholars have made claims ranging from the complete denial that such a practice occurred to the idea that mass victims were buried while still alive. This division often corresponds with another point of another point of view. Those who see pharaonic civilization as a peaceful, idyllic culture, and those who perceive it as a ruthless regime of militaristic pharaohs smiting enemies with their mace heads. Neither is accurate, of course. As is so often the case, the truth lies in between. Many of the misconceptions regarding the practice of human sacrifice arise from the lack of a clear definition. So, details of the Gebelline lineage. Source for this is Wikipedia. What is human sacrifice? It is an act of killing one or more individuals as a part of a ritual or ceremony during which victims are offered to a deity or another person. Excuse me, I need to drink some water. My mouth is dry. Before the pharaohs, Before the pharaohs, in general, there are two primary types of human sacrifice. 1. The offering of a human being to a god. In such a case, human beings were sacrificed to a god or gods in order to please them, make a bargain, or maintain or reestablish cosmic order, and to emphasize the role of a king or priest in its main Guirander. The live entombment or killing of people during ceremonies related to a funeral, retainer sacrifice, where the death of an important person is followed by killing of individuals intended to accompany him or her to the afterlife. So they just so the gentleman is just setting his premise for what human sacrifice is. So I'm going to continue reading. Right. These There are some cases of ritual killings in ancient Egypt that are commonly accepted as human sacrifice, but others are the subject of a vivid debate. Depictions of violence on tomb and temple walls have also been misunderstood as pictures demonstrating such practices. However, results from contemporary research have brought new data to this old discussion. In the following, in the following article, I will review examples that meet the requirements of the definition of human sacrifice. Before the unification of Egypt, circa 7100, circa 3100 BCE. Give me 1 second, take a drink. There were many proto-states in existence throughout the Nile Valley. The centers known as Hyrcanopolis, that's a Greek word, Gebelin, Nekata. This, and probably Tarkan, as well as Helwan, these rulers expressed their power and wealth in different ways, including opulent furnishings of their tombs, elaborate superstructure of the sepulchres, and perhaps even through human sacrifice. Decapitated skeletons and scalp skulls were found in cemeteries at Hyrcanopolis and Adaima in southern Egypt. Right, in southern Egypt. Some scholars have suggested that these are remains of human sacrificial practices, but there is no evidence that such mutilations represent the cause of death for these individuals, or whether they were offered to God or gods, or were killed during burial ceremonies. It is possible that such bodies were mutilated after death. One can also speculate that these may have been persons who died during combat or were mutilated as a result of a penalty. Skeletons with cut marks and disarticulated bones were put at other sites, e.g., the Kala, but they were buried in ordinary tombs, and nothing indicates that these individuals may have been sacrificed. Flanders Petrie, who excavated the Kala in 1895, suggests that these people may have been victims of cannibalism. However, cut marks alone do not indicate such a practice. Some marks often represent the defleshing and disarticulating of the deceased after death, particularly when bones were not found in anatomical order. It seems that Peachy was projecting his image of savage people onto the dynastic population of Egypt. As we will see later, this was not an uncommon practice. It is hard to interpret the disarticulated skeletons and scalp skulls. There's no evidence pointing to them being the remains of human sacrifice. The current excavation, directed by Rene Friedman at Heracleopolis, one of the proto-state capitals of pre-dynastic Kemet, have unearthed numerous tombs belonging to its rulers and elites. Humans and animal burials were found in the vicinity of these royal tombs, which date to the 4th millennium BCE and form a large complex cemetery. HK6 exhibits the wealth and splendor of the local elite, especially since. Give me 1 second. Let me drink some more water because my mouth is dry. All right, people. When you come in, just let me know you're in the building, please. Let me continue reading. These tombs consist of superstructures made of perishable materials which were surrounded by fences. The graves were dug into the bottom of a dry valley formed by seasonal rain. Known today as the Wadi Abu Sufyan, in Tomb 16, several human inhumations flanked the central barrier, while around the outskirts were numerous animal internments These taxa included an elephant, hartebeest, aurochs, hippopotamus, baboons, domestic livestock, dogs, and cats. It is thought that these animals were specially captured, tamed in the case of the wild ones, and then killed. The human remains found in the pit. Closest to the biggest central burial encompassed at least three young individuals. Additional bones were discovered in the vicinity of that, perhaps belonging to extra inhumations from this disturbed grave. Another pit encompassed remains of at least three more individuals, two female and one male, all between ages of 12 and 19 years old. Most densely populated was another pit, which hosted four individuals, five more buried in yet another one. The exceptional quality and big number of objects found in these substantial subsidiary tombs suggest that these occupants were unusually high status young women and children. The animals were likely wild taxa which were caught and kept alive for some time before they were sacrificed and buried in the tomb complex. One young hippopotamus, for example, displayed clear markings on its bones, indicating that it spent some time in captivity. The presence of fencing surrounding the tombs erected after the graves were dug suggests that the majority of burials occurred at the same time. Age of death for the deceased individuals is also atypical. Only young people occupy the central tomb 16. The format of this large central burial, with surrounding subsidiary graves, has distinct parallels with later practices where retainers were buried with their masters at Abydos and other cemeteries. Thus, we see here the origins for this later tradition, which we will discuss further in the following section. However, no signs of injuries that would lead to death were reported on the human bones from the burial complex at Heracleopolis. Thus, there is no conclusive evidence for the sacrifice of these people. Okay, and this is saying retainer burial, right? It says pictorial images have also been used as evidence for human sacrifice in the pre-dynastic period by some scholars. However, only one of these predates the first dynasty. The Gabelline linen, which is a group of fragments of a painted textile, are found in the tomb at Gabelline and is dated to circa 3600 to 3350 BCE. It bears a depiction of at least four boats, one of which is interpreted to carry a king. So give me 1 second. Let me see how far it is. All right. Okay. I see Reggie's in the building asking for the link, so let me post the link because I know I'm definitely about to get schooled. So here's the link, brother Reggie. You can come in, and anybody else who wants to come in can definitely come in. There's the link, brother Reggie. You can hit the link and come in anytime you wish. You can hit the link and come in anytime you wish. I'm going to go ahead and pin the link to the top of the chat for those who want to come in. All right, I'm going to pin the link to the top of the chat, right? So the link is pinned in the chat. So here comes Brother Reggie. Good night, Brother Reggie. How are you?
Oh, good night, good brother. How are you? Okay, so um, what you're reading is uh, good information about the material, but I want to ask you a question. In your
Yes,
research, in your research, have you do you know the scholars that have studied retainer sacrifice? I think you have your YouTube open at the same
yeah,
time. That's
well,
why there's echo.
you want me to be honest with you, Brother Reggie?
Yes.
This is really my first time delving into some scholarship about it. I wasn't really familiar with the topic. I was just having a conversation, and I said, let me actually dive into the topic to see where it takes me. So I wasn't really
Okay.
familiar, to be honest.
Okay. Well, so this is all part of your literature review, and I won't. I'm going to allow you to do the literature review instead of uh, telling you exactly what I know. So the first thing is your literature review on human sacrifice. So you could do it now, you could do it later, but you're going to have to list the articles on scholars that have done research, archaeological research on uh, de jure and aha and neat, right? To find out who they are and what they wrote. So the first part of the investigation would in fact be some type of literature review. Collect your sources, right? Not one source, but sources. When you do this, you're going to come to a particular author, um, uh, uh, Jacobus van Dyke, and he wrote the article Retainer Sacrifice in Egypt. And when you do that, then then you will find out why he believes that it was retainer sacrifice, right?
You know what's you know
Yes.
what's interesting, brother Reggie? I have that article, but for some reason I started with this one, so I actually have that article.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you have to be cautious with the wolves, right? Uh, a lot of them have made up their mind a long time ago uh, that they could judge a society that's 5,000 years old with their Christian values, their Muslim values, their atheist values, um, their modern American values. Uh, you know, some things are not defendable because of the time period. Um, the time period. There was a warrior class in the older kingdoms, right? Um, they weren't survival was tough for them. They weren't building these large edifices. This is before pyramids and big temples. These people are warrior groups of people, right? And they're cattle stealers. They are they're not what people think is the classical later ancient Egyptian society, right? These people are just like their counterparts in the South. They're a warrior class, and their beliefs are very, very ancient from other periods of time. And so a lot of people look at these early periods as if it was the 18th dynasty, and it was not. It was not. Um, and so when you look at uh, that article, retainer
brother Reggie,
sacrifice.
brother Reggie, give me 1 second.
All
I'm
right.
gonna I'm gonna have to change out my headset. So I'm just gonna let you talk for a few minutes while I change out my headset, right? You can go ahead and talk. I just want to change out my headset, right? So you could you wouldn't be able to get me for about 2 minutes, but I'm changing out my headset, right? Go ahead and talk.
Yeah, my eyes are hurting. I know why, but wow. Well, to the audience that's watching, listening, um, it's important to try at least to do a literature review to find out who are the experts in the field, and then to try to evaluate their work. The problem with sometimes the way we do things, we look at one article and we don't even find the we 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 don't check to see if there's more up to date information. There's different ways in which to look at this problem because it's a problem. Uh, One way is just to look at this: who uh, was there any particular determination of types of people that were in these retainer groups? Does one group stick out differently than another group? Um, what is the layout of the structures that's used? Um, what was there any evidence that these things were reopened? Right. Uh, then we will look at other sample data to see and look for uh, consistencies and inconsistencies. Then, we would then try to look to see if there's some written record in a later period to find out if there's any evidence of this whatsoever, knowing full well that they have different norms and different practices, different beliefs. Uh, we know that the pyramid text tries to tie together a lot of the beliefs. We also know that the king has several different names, uh, personal names, his king names, right? Uh, um, and there's probably some reasons why he has 4 or 5 different names. People know him personally, people know him religiously, people know him um, of him, but certainly never met him in this kingdom, right? He or she, who is the ruler. Um, and then we look at the belief practices. It's hard to look at the belief practices of the 18th dynasty and be certain that this was the practice in the older periods. Um, when we're unsure, we say we are unsure, right? When we think that we are right, we show what we that we're right with evidence. If our evidence falls apart and we still think we're right, we go back to the drawing board. Sometimes this takes months,
See, but you
maybe
see,
months, years,
see,
right?
but you see, but you see, but Reggie, I said something, and then I realized when people were saying certain things I might have not been right. So I said, I'm just gonna go on an honest search, see if I'm right, or if I'm just talking out of turn. So I'm taking a position that I'm trying to do honest research to see if this is the honest, if these people are being honest about it, or if it's biased scholarship in my view.
They're
So this is
biased.
where, so this is gonna take me. So this is gonna take me where it's gonna take me, and then I'll make sense out of it after I've read. Because I have this article, have the one you mentioned, and then it has a whole like dissertation, a literal dissertation about stuff. And from reading this alone, this seems for him to be saying, well, yes, human sacrifice existed, but then there's other things that they say is human sacrifice that's not human sacrifice. So it's like he's saying it existed and it didn't exist. You know what I mean? It's a little convoluted because they're saying some instances looks like it, and we're saying it is. We're not sure it is, but we know this is not. So I don't know where this is going to lead me, but I'm going to do honest
Well,
research.
you're making So you haven't even gotten to the point where you know either way because you have to read the articles. So you can't, you got to start at a point where you've collected all the articles and then you at least say what they say. Now, if there's any difference, if you still do not believe what they say, then you have to uh, you, you have to sometimes um, leave it alone until there's a new dissertation, a new article, a new finding, right?
Well, I've
But
only found three articles so far, Reggie. And one of them is the one that you just mentioned. So I don't know if there's anything outside of that that I might be
well, at
missing.
least start with the three articles, and so the uh, we have technology that we can say, okay, it's like in law, you shepherdize, you find out if there's a later article that contradicts any of this stuff, a new finding. So we have the tools. What I when you're dealing with logic, um, brass, but particularly logic, Sheffrin, they're gonna look. They are gonna look, and you should already look before you kind of make some uh, judgments. And then Smash Rockwell has done a lot of work um, on this, and so then you should consult with at least people who have some agreement with. Smash is a how can I say, he's very aggressive on protecting Kemet. Always was. That's his work. So he spends his free time looking for doing lots of research. And then you would look at uh, customs of modern day Nilotic people. And you will find out in modern Nilotic people, if their king is weak, they kill their king. The Shylock, the Dinka, the Noor, if their king is weak, it's his time to go. They kill him. And that's in the, I'm talking from is 1700, 1800s. Uh, Not now, but they do. So
Okay.
we know in the period, I mean, we know in the area there are similar practices. The Nilotic people would have come in contact, of course, with these particular people. They may have been, and sometimes the cousins, sometimes the parents. So I would want to, because I argue with them, like I don't know if you watched me argue with them today.
No, but here's what I'm gonna do, Reggie. What I'm gonna do is actually slow down, put these articles in chronological order, and then come back and start with the earliest, and then start with the earliest, and then come forward to the ones that are closest to
That's
2020.
what you, yeah, that's a good
I
practice.
think I think I made a
And then
mistake with this one because this
and
is
then
not the
you go
earliest one.
right, and then you make a comparison between articles, and then you sometimes have to check to see if you know how biased the expert is. But some of these experts, or they may be biased, but they are also on the ground, so they're doing primary work.
So let me pose a question to Brother Reggie. In your vast study of ancient Kemet, would you say that human sacrifice is something legitimate or people are making it up? Would you say there's enough evidence to say that it did happen, or
Um,
where do you stand
yeah,
with it? Because I
yeah,
know you study
yeah,
way more than.
Yeah,
It happened.
yeah. There's evidence that in my working throughout the years in looking at this, yes, in the earlier periods, uh, in the Old Kingdom, how can I say, Old Kingdom, pre-dynastic and Old Kingdom is not the Egypt, the ancient Egypt that we think of. Uh, um, uh, in the gnomes, there's different gnome practices. So there's different people in the gnomes that are way far away from the king. Some of these people are in the south. There's gnomes in the south. There's gnomes that are in the delta. The king is largely moving around, you know, uh, uh, from Thebes, sometimes to uh, Hierakonpolis, right? He's moving. The king is moving. The king is moving around, and then there's different periods. There's a first intermediate period where there's a lot of bloodshed in the first intermediate period, right? So the concept of smiting, right? The whole concept of when you see a king smite someone, that is just not a murder. That's a ceremonial religious event. So then you have to check how often do what is the last time that you see a king smiting someone? And
Now, now, Reggie, I was reading in this article, and I don't know if you were here from the beginning, but the article it said that sometimes when people see these depictions, it does not necessarily mean that this literally happened. It
that's
might just
correct.
be it might just be an artistic depiction of how they saw war, because
But
we
that's
know the
correct.
ancient Greeks were you know pretty artistic in their renderings.
But
So it
that's
doesn't
not
mean
enough to say it didn't happen. That's a
no,
critique
no.
on.
I'm not saying it didn't happen, but we have to be fair. In all cases, when you see people being dismembered, it doesn't mean that it happened. It could
Right.
be an
You have
artistic
right, but I know this.
depiction
But you're bringing up one. Why did you bring up that point, Joey?
because it was in the article.
Right,
The
but bring
article
up
said that.
multiple points. What other points are there?
I just tried to get into the article and it talked
Don't
about
talk
that.
to me until don't talk to me about the articles until you read the articles.
No,
Because what I
I
want you
did
to
finish
do,
reading. I
what
did
I
finish
want you
reading.
to do is I want you to read the articles so that you could see all of the possibilities.
Okay. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna see which one is the earliest and come up to the one closest to 2025. And
But
then
answer
what I'm
my question. Answer my question about smiting. Smiting is a sacrifice. It's a killing, right? But the at some point the ancient Egyptians involved themselves in this concept of ma'at, right? And then they have things like that they not have I killed, right? In the Purdom Haru. But you see them smiting someone, right? So then you have to figure out how do they categorize the smiting because they're smiting for many of the periods. They're smiting their enemies, women kings and men kings.
right,
Now,
but Reggie, when you're in battle, don't you aren't you supposed to smite your enemy? It doesn't mean it's a sacrifice. It means you killed your enemy. That's what smite means. Unless I'm
right, but they're always in a religious context.
you know, I'm not gonna disagree because as I said, I haven't done much research on it. I could probably when I'm done with this, I could probably look into that. Or probably in between this is probably going to explain all of that. So I'll probably get into that once I start to read my article. We'll
Right.
probably
So
look at
I just threw that out because that's one of the categories that you need to investigate. Smiting. So when you look at smiting, you see kings of that area, let's call them kings of Tawi of the two lands, they not only smite uh, their different ethnic type groups, they are smiting Egyptians too.
Well, I'm
They
sure.
smite Egyptians too.
Okay. Well, I'm sure in my studies I'm gonna come across smiting as a form of human sacrifice. I'm very sure they're gonna mention it.
Yeah, you will come
I'm
across
really
that
very
as you do lots of other types of points. So I would just say one way in which you do is you always have when you're talking a literature review, you so that you could be aware of the counterpoints. Most of these people that you are talking with, they're just going to do a quick lookup at the time uh, of their opposition to you on YouTube to say that you're wrong.
all right, but Reggie, you and I know that I don't like to do that. And to be honest, it's because of people like you and Smash and Jabbar and others who make me to understand you have to pull out some academic to make your point, or else you don't have an argument. I don't like you. I think it's wrong. I like Kemet, and all of that fist waving is not an argument in this particular time. So I try my best. I'm
Yeah,
trying my
but
best to.
Smash is a very well studied advocate for ancient Egypt, right? So you would the way that you're talking to me, you would talk to Smash, and Smash will give you points that probably will go your way because Smash has argued this, please, several times, right? I've had to look, look. I had to go into the dojo a couple of times with Smash on this.
All right, I'm gonna see if I can get a hold of him because I don't have an email or anything for him like that. So I'm gonna
Well, you're on his show enough.
yeah, right. So next time you're up the panel, I'm definitely gonna ask him. But I know I'm on the right track, and I'm gonna find my answer. So I'm
Yeah.
going in open
So
minded that I might be wrong, I might be right, it might be a middle ground somewhere. But I'm not very well studied on it. But I'm gonna do this live, and I'm gonna expose myself to the people and say, listen, I'm not sure. Let me read this and let me learn while everyone else is learning. I don't think there's any problem
yeah.
because I
So
don't, and I don't want to come on here sounding crazy.
no,
Because
but
then I come on
yeah.
here sounding crazy.
So I'm just saying, ritual smiting, right, is considered a type of human sacrifice.
Okay,
It's enacted in warfare. It's part of punishment. It's brutal, but it is sacrifice, right? So the people who are being smited by the king, they feel that they are, of course, being oppressed. That's
but
not one way. They
but
feel they feel that this king is oppressing them enough to
for you to
rise against him, and the king will smite them right publicly, bloody,
right,
not
right.
right, not simply strangling them, will bust their head open to the white meat.
All right, brother Reggie. I'm open to all of that, but in my research of oppression, when you use the term oppression, it's not a one-to-one English to Medu nature ideology. It doesn't necessarily mean I went over to this country, beat up a dude. No, I went over to this country with the intention of beating up the dude and taking everything he had for no reason. It seems that oppression is nuanced. It has to do with being in a fight and repelling someone when you're in a fight. It doesn't necessarily mean
Well,
what
do
it
you
means.
know the words? Do you know the ancient Egyptian word for oppression?
I actually had a PowerPoint with the words on it. And one of the sect is a word that came up.
What? What?
Sect is a word that came up.
Set?
Sect,
Spell
FK,
it.
FK. It has a
Yeah.
horn viper and a cable. I actually have it in a presentation. I don't know how much, well, you were on last night, so you didn't actually see it. But I actually have 4 words there, so I'm going to go into the presentation and
Right.
show you what words I have.
So then you will see. Then you will see. Fek, as you correct, right, is one of those words. So then you would go to the TLA and you would look up the major words of oppression, right? And then
I
and
actually,
then you will
give me one
see who's
second.
talking. You see now here's the problem. The ancient Egyptians have their own type of propaganda, king propaganda, right? They have so just because an ancient Egyptian king does something, that does not mean that does not mean that what he's doing is right, because you have different kings there, right?
Okay, give me a second,
So
Brother Reggie. Let me share my screen so I could show you what I'm. No, that's not it. Wrong thing. I have to stop sharing that, and then I'll actually stop sharing that, and I'll share what definitions I found in the dictionary
well,
or the actual.
I know some of the terms, so because
I know you
I
know.
know some of the terms, so but the problem is that you at least know one of the terms, right?
Yeah.
um, and besides Mod and EastFet, but they're tied to Mod and EastFet. So I know you know how to do it. You can go to so I don't need to see it again.
No, I'm just putting it up for other people so they can be able to see exactly what I'm talking about. To know that it's not a one-to-one thing. You have spec, which means to be empty, to be wasted to oppression. Then you have a word abid, which means oppression. You have abd, which means be savage, be aggressive, be angry. And then you have ar, which means to drive away, oppressive force.
Yeah, but
So
there's other words like there's other words like Binet, right? Binet. So somehow in your literature review you missed Binet. It's Bint.
I looked into one particular dictionary, and those are the 4 words that it gave me.
Okay, so the
And
words so Bennett is one, opt opt what you said is another, feck is another one, right? So those are and then there's others and the others you listed. So my whole point of it is that a king, he's gonna be like just justifying his actions. You want to look to see what common people say or regular people say. Um, you, so do different periods. So I know that you know how to do this because you're on our chat, but when you go against someone like and if Haskell's in the room, Haskell's gonna look, man.
well, Reggie, I just set my base premise. I didn't really get into TLA and all of those other things. I pulled out a couple of things, and
Okay.
out of my
Well,
platform, I can't show you. You can go on Carnivorous and you can see it. You can critique it. I didn't ask them for a copy of it because it's not on my platform.
okay.
So you
Well,
have to go on their platform to see it and to critique it and know. But I didn't. But I showed a couple of things, but I didn't get deep into it because I wanted to leave room for more content and I wanted to make it a multi part. But
okay.
I did read the Papyrus of Anui, which is the primary source. I did bring up something else. I forgot what it was. But that was the primary source as well. So I tried to bring up as many primary sources as possible, as opposed to just talking.
So
Well, um, okay, so no, I know that you know how to do this. It's just that uh when I observe, you know, what was the title of their show that they did after you did your talk?
I did a post show. I don't think they've done a post.
Oh no,
I don't.
no, they titled the whole show. They put up a whole show with a title.
I think it was the same. I think they replayed it.
Yeah, but
But they
what was the title?
was there oppression in ancient Kemet, and did everyone go to heaven?
No, they put in that they that they made you a human sacrifice.
Did I miss something there?
Yeah, they said. Let me find the exact title.
You see what I'm saying? You see
They
the bull?
they they made an exact. They made an a title,
I didn't
calling you
see it.
a retainer sacrifice.
I didn't even see it.
Oh, you didn't see it.
No, of
Oh,
course I didn't.
let's see, Cornelius podcast.
Clearly, I didn't see it. But
Well, here's the title that they said. They, uh, let me see. Live. Logic puts Joey in a retainer sacrifice for the afterlife.
wow,
So the
that's
first
cute.
one was what you thought it was.
That's cute,
Read,
brother.
read Joey versus Logic. Does
That's cute.
everyone go to heaven that the ancient Egyptians
That's cute.
oppress,
That's
have
cute, brother.
oppression, right?
That's cute.
Right?
That's
And then they did something earlier. There was
Red.
no oppression in ancient Egypt. That was a talk. But see, Joey, Logic was somebody you was going to debate. So you can't have a discussion with someone who's going to debate you because unless it's a weigh-in. Otherwise, he's just trying to collect information from you. So ultimately, the show was Logic puts Joey in a retainer sacrifice for the afterlife.
Isn't that cute?
That's cute, right?
It it is cute.
Right. So
But guess what I didn't do? But guess what I didn't do, Reggie?
what?
I didn't give him all my info. I definitely did give him all my information. You
I
know that, and
know,
you know that, and I
but
know that.
that is true. However, when you're talking to somebody who we're going to have a debate with, he's not having a discussion with you. He's trying to kill you.
And 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 guess what, Reggie? It's okay because at the end of the day, I already know where they are coming from. So I'm not worried about all the cute little titles that they're gonna put up. That
Right.
doesn't concern
So if you
because
know this,
if you can't show me a primary source and everything you show me is wiki, then
I agree with you.
and there's no then all they're gonna have is a cute title and an echo chamber that's gonna tell you
But
you're
then you
right,
don't
you're right.
say anything. You don't say anything until they show you something.
Brother Reggie, I already know where they were coming from before they even started. Because you
Okay.
can tell by the vocabulary when people read and when people are simply repeating Wikipedia
Okay.
or repeating ChatGPT. You know that
Well,
and I know that.
well, that's
So,
fine. Well, it's late for
and
me.
I do
Um,
appreciate the first of all, I do appreciate your time.
yeah,
Definitely, Brother Reggie.
I just
But I already know.
I have way more experience than most people debating people who don't have information who or running points. So that makes me I have to I'm debating FBA people right now. I'm debating I mean I'm having this uh, FBA ADOS people right now who you know they haven't many of them haven't been to libraries, worked in the field, They're just a cult, right?
I
With a
agree.
lot of hate for Africans and Caribbeans. But they sound stupid to me because they don't know law, right? They sound stupid to me. So when I don't play with them, I I uh, I chit chat with them, but I'm gonna stab them every time they talk to me. I'm gonna make them ignorant. I'm gonna ask them for their education. I'm gonna ask them how do they know the things. I'm gonna ask them for the case. I'm gonna ask them, do they know how to analyze the case? Right? I'm not playing with these people. I don't. Like when I'm talking with Smash. Well, Smash's groups is much more of a learning group, right? And then there's people that come in there like King J. Uh, you know, they always throw a monkey wrench into the conversations, but I wouldn't be who I was if I didn't do any pre work, right? Choose this because guess what? For me, all they got to do is give me one time, find out that I bleed. I've survived 8, 9 years. I might have a few cuts, right? Maybe even once in a while a stab because I made a mistake, but uh, I'm not. I've never been critical. I don't want you to be critical. I'm spending my time talking to you to tell you to give to help you get a methodology. Now, if you you know if you I mean uh, I'm just trying to give you my years of experience. I'm 60 years old, going almost 61,
Well,
right?
Brother Red, you know I'm an individual who respects you. And,
No,
and
I'm not saying that, but I
anyone
am
that
saying if
says
you
bad
respect
about
me,
I'm gonna listen to you. I'm gonna listen to what you say. I'm definitely gonna do
right? If you respect me, then you're going to your methodology is going to get better. All of these people that I argue with, they couldn't write a freaking paper, right? If it was how can I say they couldn't they no coloring book is hard. Color making a coloring book is hard. Um, they couldn't write their points down on one piece of paper
that. So,
with
oh,
sources.
and if you even and if you even notice when I put forth the PowerPoint, I actually wrote an abstract in the beginning of the PowerPoint to explain my ideas, and then I went into the basic premise of the idea.
Right, but then the next word after you write your abstract is I wrote an abstract. Let me see your abstract. When
Well,
they don't present an abstract after you present an abstract, you just say it's not worth talking about because you haven't written anything.
Brother Reggie, what I'm gonna do is take your advice, and
Yeah,
I'm
you
gonna
should.
stick to what I've been doing, reading the scholars and seeing how best I can make heads or tails of what the scholars say.
Right.
Because people are gonna talk and they're gonna say what they want to say, but at the end of the day, when you see Jose come on to YouTube and make a presentation, it's it's for people to learn, and it's for those who are talking to sit down and be quiet because people are going to talk all they want to talk. They can say what they want to say, but they are not going to be
Well,
able to get past anything I'm saying that they are just talking and using Wikipedia. I am not for that. I'm not
well,
going back and
I
forth.
do.
I'm not letting nobody lure me into no battle where I'm going back and forth between wasting my time on useless content. Nothing about my page is useless content. It's like nothing on your
All
page is
right.
useless.
Well, they
And I'm not going to
they
do that.
okay, that's fine, but they ended up trying to make you a retainer sacrifice by labeling that so that other people don't listen to you.
It's
All right.
okay.
So with that said, my time
Thank
is
you,
up.
brother. Thank you, brother Reggie. I appreciate it. Right? I'm going to take your advice, and I
Yeah.
think I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do in the first place. Stay on my own platform and deal with my own content. That's what I'm going to do for now. I'm going to do that, and I'm going to develop my methodology.
Yeah, when you're ready, you just come out the you come out the door. Uh, you come out the door. You lock your door so you can't run back in. And do you present the facts? Right? You can't be halfway in, right? Halfway out. You lock the door behind you, right? You make sure you got all your weapons, and you come to kill them intellectually. Don't play with these people. But you didn't. You should have checked with Smash because uh, Smash has made several presentations on this.
I think I'm gonna do that. I
Yeah, I
think
think.
the
All right.
next
Good
time.
night.
All right. Good night, brother Reggie. Thanks again. All right, people. Brother Jose is out. I just want to put that on the table. So, ladies and gentlemen, have a good night.